Friends, welcome to the Mahan UPSC channel, and today we are going to see about the fiscal deficit. So what exactly fiscal deficit is? So fiscal deficit is defined as difference between the total income of the government and its total expenditure. So in very short, it is just a difference of the income and the expenditure. Okay, so the income of the government basically is what total taxes, whatever the money government gets in the total taxes and the non-debt capital receipts. So whatever the money government gets in this becomes actually the income of the government and its expenditure. So difference between these two things is what fiscal deficit. So now next we have to know that when this fiscal deficit actually happens. So whenever the government expenditure exceeds its income, then the situation which arises is known as a fiscal deficit. So whenever we say that fiscal deficit is there, it means government expenditure is more than the income of the government. So the next thing is we should know that the fiscal deficit, whatever we calculate, it is basically happens in the two terms, in absolute terms and also in the percentage of GDP. So this we should know that at what terms we actually calculate fiscal deficit. So absolute terms and percentage of GDP. So based on these two, we calculate fiscal deficit. So the next thing, the important thing is how the government describe fiscal deficit. So basically what they say that the income whatever they get into the consolidated fund of India, okay, the income like whatever they get into this consolidated fund of India, the money and the expenditure whatever they do from the consolidated fund of India. So difference between their expenditure which happens from the consolidated fund of India and the income which they gets into the consolidated fund of India. So the difference between these two is known as a fiscal deficit. But the thing which we have to remember is whenever we say that when government uses consolidated fund of India money, so we have to exclude something, that is repayment of the debt. Like if the government is using money from consolidated fund of India, so we have to exclude repayment of the debt. So whatever money apart from this government is using, that will consider as a expenditure, and the money whatever they are getting into consolidated fund of India, so there we have to exclude the debt receipts. So if you leave these two things and then whatever the expenditure is done from consolidated fund of India minus whatever the money government is putting into the consolidated fund of India, so the difference between these two is fiscal deficit. Okay, so we have a formula for fiscal deficit which we can see here, that it is the total expenditure of the government as we have discussed earlier minus subtraction total income of the government. So expenditure minus income. So now we can see that total expenditure of the government is nothing but the capital and the revenue expenditure. Whatever money government is spending on capital and revenue, so that will come into the expenditure, and the income whatever government gets through revenue receipts, through recovery of loans and other receipts, that will become a income. Okay, so how we define fiscal deficit? The formula is very simple. It is total expenditure of the government minus total income of the government. So revenue receipt, we should know that what is exactly revenue receipt. So revenue receipts is nothing. It's all corporation tax, income tax, custom duties, union excise duties, GST and tax of union territories. So these things we call as a revenue receipts. And then what are the non-tax revenues? So these are interest receipts, dividends and profits, external grants, other non-tax revenues, receipt of union territories. So these two things we should know. So we have seen in this video what is fiscal deficit and the formula of fiscal deficit, and we have seen revenue receipts and non-tax revenues. So in this video, this much only guys. So next video we'll see other topic, and that's it for this video. Thank you.